The Galactic Council watched in shock as humanity unveiled the largest, most powerful dreadnought ever built. The entire galaxy trembled. Trillions of sentient lives now hung in the balance. Admiral Zorgak slammed the intelligence reports on the council table. "This cannot stand. Those filthy apes threaten everything." Emperor Valorian raised a cautious hand. "Come now, Zorgax. The humans are primitive, harmless. What could they possibly do with one ship, no matter the size?" "We cannot risk it." Zorax jabbed a clawed finger at the Emperor. "We must strike now before it's too late, before those humans destroy us all." Agent Thrakar and his strike team glided silently through the void of space in their state-of-the-art stealth shuttle. The sleek black vessel was virtually undetectable, a necessity for this high-stakes mission deep within human territory. "Prepare for final approach," Thrakar hissed, his reptilian eyes fixed on the looming shape of the human dreadnought. Even incomplete, it was a terrifying sight, a massive construct of metal and composites bristling with weapons. "Remember, our objectives are twofold. Plant the charges to cripple this abomination and eliminate Marcus Riker." The shuttle docked with the dreadnought, magnetic clamps engaging with barely a sound. Thrakar and his operatives disembarked, fanning out through maintenance tunnels and Jeffries tubes. They moved with practiced efficiency, planting high-yield explosives at critical junctures: the main reactor, the shield generators, the command deck. In the cavernous engine room, Thrakar placed the final charge and activated the detonator. Charges set, now for Riker. They found the brilliant human engineer on the bridge, hunched over a console and muttering to himself. He spun as the door hissed open, eyes widening in surprise and fear. "What the hell? Who are you? How did you get on my ship?" Riker demanded, backing away. Thrakar leveled his blaster. "In the name of the Galactic Council, Marcus Riker, I condemn you to death." Suddenly a hatch burst open, and a squad of human marines stormed onto the bridge, pulse rifles raised. "Drop your weapons," the lead marine barked. "Drop 'em now." Thrakar snarled in frustration. They'd been so close, but the humans had the drop on them. Reluctantly, he lowered his blaster. And then all hell broke loose. With a roar of fury, Riker launched himself at Thrakar, tackling the infiltrator and sending them both crashing to the deck. The Marines opened fire, scorching plasma bolts stitching across the bridge. Thrakar's team scattered, returning fire. "Fool!" Thrakar spat, grappling with Riker. "You've doomed yourself and your entire pathetic species." "I don't think so, you son of a bitch," Riker growled. He drove a knee into Thrakar's groin and rolled free, snatching a fallen blaster. The engineer and the infiltrator squared off, weapons aimed. Around them the battle raged. The human marines were disciplined and well-equipped. With better armor and more advanced weaponry, Thrakar's team fell one by one, blue blood spraying. Seeing his mission collapsing, Thrakar made a split-second decision. His thumb stabbed down on the detonator. A string of massive explosions ripped through the dreadnought, sending shockwaves reverberating through the deck plates. The lights flickered and died, claxons blaring. Flames erupted from shattered control panels. In the chaos, Thrakar shot Riker point-blank. The engineer crumpled, clutching his chest. Thrakar fled, bounding over bodies, desperate to reach the shuttle. By some miracle he made it. The shuttle blasted free of the crippled dreadnought, racing for deep space. Behind him, the mighty vessel listed, venting atmosphere and debris. In the medical bay, a badly wounded Riker clawed his way back to consciousness. He coughed, tasting blood, every breath pure agony. "Status?" he wheezed. "How bad?" A Marine medic shook her head. "It's bad, sir. The Dreadnought. It's taken heavy damage. We're dead in space." Riker grimaced, jaw clenched against the pain. "We'll repair her," he vowed, eyes hard as steel. "We'll make her stronger than ever, and then we'll show those council bastards the price of their treachery." The council's fury at the failed sabotage was as hot as 1,000 suns. Emergency meetings were called, threats were made, and ultimatums were delivered. The humans were given a choice: halt the construction of their dreadnought abomination and submit to the council's rule or face the consequences. The entire galaxy held its breath, waiting for the humans' response. President Xavier stood before the United Nations Assembly, his face a mask of defiance. Cameras from 1,000 worlds broadcast his every word. The Council demands that we abandon our greatest achievement and bow to their tyranny. They have attacked us without provocation, without honor. They seek to make us slaves. His voice rose to a thunderous crescendo. But I say to you and to all the galaxy, humanity will never submit. We will never surrender our freedom, our dignity, our very right to exist. The assembly erupted in applause, a tidal wave of human resolve. In the depths of space, Marcus Riker gritted his teeth against the pain of his wounds as he surveyed the damage to his dreadnought. The sabotage had been extensive, the ship's innards a twisted mess of ruptured power conduits and shattered bulkheads. But the vessel's core remained intact. It could be rebuilt, stronger than before. We'll need to reroute the main power grid, bypass the damaged sections of the hull, prioritize the weapon systems and the hyperdrive. His engineers nodded, determination etched on every face. They worked around the clock, fueled by adrenaline and a grim sense of purpose. In the council chambers, Admiral Zorgak seethed with barely contained rage. The humans had spat in the face of the galaxy's rightful rulers. They would pay for their insolence with blood and fire. "Summon the fleets," he growled to his subordinates. "Every ship, every soldier. We will crush these upstarts once and for all, grind their worlds to dust beneath our boots." The orders went out, and the mighty armada of the Council began to assemble. Dreadnoughts, battle cruisers, and carriers from a dozen species united in their determination to bring the humans to heel. Across the human worlds, a grim realization began to dawn. The Council would not back down. War was coming, and it would be a war unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. Millions rushed to enlist in the armed forces, factories retooled for wartime production, and planetary defenses were bolstered. In the shipyards, work on the Dreadnought redoubled, the massive vessel taking shape with astonishing speed. It became a symbol of human defiance, a beacon of hope in the gathering darkness. On the edges of human space, the first skirmishes broke out. Council scout ships clashed with human patrols, the flashes of weapons fire lighting up the void. The human ships were outnumbered and outgunned, but they fought with a ferocity that surprised the Council forces. They refused to retreat even in the face of overwhelming odds, buying time with their lives for the Dreadnought to be completed. In his command bunker, President Xavier watched the reports coming in from the front lines, his face grim. He turned to his generals, the weight of the world on his shoulders. "We cannot win this war through attrition. The Council's resources are too vast. Our only hope is to strike fast and hard, to hit them where they least expect it." He pointed to a star map, to a system deep within Council territory. "There, the Korak shipyards. If we can take them out, we'll cripple their ability to reinforce their fleets. It'll buy us time." The generals exchanged skeptical glances. "With respect, Mr. President," one said, "the Korak shipyards are one of the most heavily defended installations in the galaxy. Our forces would be annihilated before they even got close." Xavier's eyes gleamed with a fierce light. "Not our regular forces, no, but the Dreadnought, with its advanced stealth systems and firepower, it might just have a chance. It's a gamble, but it's one we have to take." In the depths of space, Riker stood on the bridge of his mighty vessel, the scars of the sabotage still raw on its hull. But the Dreadnought was ready, its weapon systems primed, its engines thrumming with barely restrained power. Riker turned to his crew, his voice ringing with conviction. "You all know the stakes. The survival of our species, our very way of life. The Council thinks they can crush us beneath their heel, but we'll show them what humanity is made of. We'll show them the true meaning of defiance." As the Dreadnought powered up its hyperdrive, preparing to embark on its first and most critical mission, the entire galaxy trembled on the precipice of a war that would shake the very foundations of the cosmos. The die was cast, the bets were made, and the fate of trillions hung in the balance. In that moment, the Dreadnought leapt forward, vanishing into the swirling vortex of hyperspace, carrying with it the hopes and fears of all humanity. And in the council chambers, Admiral Zorgax watched the reports of the Dreadnought's departure with narrowed eyes, his claws tightening on the arms of his command chair. "So it begins," he hissed, his voice cold as the void. "Let them come. We'll be waiting." The Invictus emerged from the shipyard like a leviathan rising from the depths, its hull gleaming in the light of the distant sun. The Dreadnought was a masterpiece of human engineering, a testament to the ingenuity and determination of its creators. Every inch of its massive frame was bristling with weapons, from the massive railguns that lineed its sides to the devastating Nova cannons that sat atop its bridge. As the mighty ship set course to intercept the approaching Council fleet, a sense of grim determination settled over its crew. They knew that the fate of their species hung in the balance, that the outcome of this battle would determine the future of humanity. But they also knew that they had something the Council did not, the Invictus and the indomitable human spirit that had forged it. On the bridge of the Dreadnought, Marcus Riker stood tall, his eyes fixed on the viewscreen that showed the Council fleet drawing ever closer. His wounds from the sabotage attempt had healed, but the scars it had left on his body and his psyche would never fade. He had poured his heart and soul into this ship, had sacrificed everything to see it completed. And now, as he watched the enemy approach, he knew that all of it had been worth it. "All hands battle stations," he said, his voice calm and steady. "Prepare to engage the enemy." The crew of the Invictus scrambled to their posts, their faces set with determination. They knew that this was the moment they had been training for, the moment when they would finally have the chance to strike back against the Council and all its tyranny. As the two fleets drew closer, the Council ships opened fire, their weapons raking across the void towards the Invictus. But the Dreadnought's shields held firm, the impenetrable energy barrier absorbing the incoming fire like a sponge. The Invictus responded in kind, its own weapons roaring to life, and the battle was joined. It was a sight unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. The Invictus tore through the Council ships like they were made of paper, its weapons easily overwhelming their defenses. The railguns spat out streams of hyper-accelerated projectiles that punched through hulls and ripped through vital systems, while the Nova cannons unleashed blasts of searing energy that vaporized entire ships in an instant. The Council ships fought back with everything they had, but it was clear that they were outmatched. The Invictus was simply too powerful, too advanced for them to handle. One by one, the Council ships fell, reduced to burning hulks that drifted lifeless in the void. On the bridge of his flagship, Admiral Zorgax watched in horror as his fleet was decimated. He had never seen anything like this before, had never faced an enemy that could so easily brush aside the might of the Council. As the last of his ships exploded in a brilliant flash of light, he felt a sense of despair wash over him. The Council had been beaten, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. As the final Council ship was destroyed, the Invictus broadcast a message to the galaxy, its voice ringing out across the stars. "People of the galaxy," it said, "hear this message. For too long the Council has oppressed and tyrannized the beings of this universe. But no longer. Humanity has risen, and we will not tolerate their crimes any longer. Let this battle be a warning to all who would stand against us. Any further aggression will be met with swift and brutal retaliation. The age of the Council is over. The age of humanity has begun." The crew of the Invictus cheered as the message was sent, their voices echoing through the halls of the great ship. They had done it. They had struck a blow against the Council that would be felt across the galaxy. And they knew that this was only the beginning. There were still battles to be fought, still wrongs to be righted, but with the Invictus at their side, they knew that they could face anything the universe could throw at them. In the wake of the Invictus's resounding victory, the once mighty Galactic Council found itself in disarray. The destruction of their fleet had shattered more than just their military might. It had cracked the very foundation of their authority. Across the galaxy, whispers of rebellion stirred as subjugated species began to question the Council's rule. On the Council homeworld, an emergency session was called. Representatives from a dozen species gathered in the grand chamber, their faces etched with worry and fear. Emperor Valorian stood at the center of the room, his regal bearing tinged with exhaustion. "The humans have made their point," Valorian said, his voice heavy. "We cannot hope to match their technological prowess. To continue this war would be to court our own annihilation." Murmurs rippled through the assembled dignitaries. Some grumbled in dissent, their pride wounded by the prospect of bowing to the upstart humans. But others, seeing the writing on the wall, nodded in grim acceptance. "What do you propose, Emperor?" asked a willowy Avalonian diplomat. Valorian sighed. "We must sue for peace, offer to recognize the humans as equals in the galactic community, in exchange for an end to hostilities." The chamber erupted in a cacophony of voices, some raised in anger, others in grudging agreement. Valorian raised a hand for silence. "I do not make this suggestion lightly," he said. "But we must face the reality of our situation. The humans have proven their strength. To deny them now would be to invite our own destruction." As the debate raged on, President Xavier sat in his office on Earth, watching the live feed from the council chamber. A small smile played at the corners of his mouth as he listened to Valorian's words. "They're running scared," he said to the figure standing at his side. "They know they can't beat us." Marcus Riker, his wounds healed but his face still bearing the scars of battle, nodded. "They're finally realizing what we've known all along, that we won't be pushed around anymore." Xavier leaned back in his chair, steepling his fingers. "What do you think of Valorian's proposal?" Riker shrugged. "It's a start, but we can't let them off the hook that easily. They need to understand that things have changed, that we're not just some primitive species they can boss around." Xavier nodded, his eyes hardening. "Agreed. We'll accept their offer of peace, but on our terms. The Council must acknowledge the sovereignty of all sentient species and renounce their policy of forced assimilation and cultural suppression." Riker grinned. "That's going to stick in their craw." "Tough," Xavier said. "They can take it or leave it, but they'd be fools to refuse." The negotiations that followed were tense and protracted, with both sides jockeying for advantage. But in the end, faced with the prospect of a renewed war they could not win, Emperor Valorian and the Council agreed to humanity's terms. In a ceremony broadcast across the galaxy, Valorian and Xavier signed the Treaty of Earth, officially ending the conflict and ushering in a new era of peace and cooperation. As the ink dried on the parchment, spontaneous celebrations erupted on 1,000 worlds. For Marcus Riker, the moment was bittersweet. He had poured his heart and soul into the Invictus, had risked everything to see humanity take its rightful place among the stars. And now, watching as Xavier and Valorian shook hands, he knew that his work was far from over. In recognition of his heroism and his pivotal role in the creation of the Dreadnought, Riker was appointed as humanity's ambassador to the Council. It was a daunting task, fraught with challenges and pitfalls, but Riker knew that there was no one better suited to the job than him. As he stood on the observation deck of the Invictus, watching the stars drift by, Riker felt a sense of pride and purpose swell within him. The road ahead would be long and difficult, but he was ready to face whatever challenges lay in store, for he knew that, with the Invictus at his back and the indomitable human spirit at his side, there was nothing they could not achieve. The Invictus hung in space, a gleaming symbol of humanity's strength and resilience. Its hull bore the scars of battle, but it remained unbowed, a silent sentinel watching over the fragile peace that had been won at such great cost. And on its bridge, Marcus Riker stood tall, ready to lead his species into a brave new future. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.